All right. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who don't know Sarah Morales, she is the deconstructing gaslighting guru. And I remember, Sarah, when your first podcast came out.
Really?
I do. I remember it. And I was
Hmm.
like, she's doing a podcast. Are you kidding me?
Uh,
And listened to, I don't remember how many you dropped in the beginning, but I listened to
mhm.
everything you had and I was like, oh, this is good. And I have watched you in your career and all of the cool work you're doing. So
Mm.
anytime our paths get to cross is cool. Also, I will say, Sarah and I both get to be on the board of directors for AppSats together.
Yes.
So we do get to rub shoulders quite a bit.
Yes, we
But
do.
in this sense,
Not enough, but
not enough. Yeah. And when I pop into Texas, it's kind of fun. I get to see
yes.
Sarah. But okay.
Okay.
So today, why I was really hoping you could come on and talk to us is we are recording today. We're at the end of October. We're headed straight into full-fledged holidays. And this is a hard time of year for our betrayed partners.
Yeah.
So I would love to talk about today what you see, especially around gaslighting and trauma.
Yeah. So I think historically, so I've been doing this since coaching in the betrayal trauma world since really full time since 2013. And during that time, especially when I was working for the CSAT in Austin, the first 4 years, I remember hearing and noticing that there was often an uptick. And I don't know if that's what you all experience at
Mhm.
Choose, but there's something about the stress. I think the juxtaposition of wanting things to be, feeling a certain way, the nostalgia, all of these almost idealistic things
Mhm.
versus the
Expectation.
reality.
Mm.
Yeah, versus the reality of what might be happening. So whether that somebody has recently had a disclosure or a discovery, right? And so now they're looking back through this filter or this lens of all of the previous years of holidays. Again, because I think we put so much emphasis on the holidays. I think we remember things more about them. So I think that that means more memories get triggered,
Mm.
and that means we're now dealing with more being retriggered or having fight, flight, freeze come up. And I think when that happens, if you're still in relationship with the person who was the betrayer, that can ding a lot of their shame, not making excuses, just giving explanations, right? Never
Mhm.
excuses.
Mhm.
And that's just one of, I think, 3 scenarios where I see an increase in there being an experience of toxic communication, and a lot of gaslighting is like takes an uptake. I think it also is exacerbated because many of us, not all of us, I'm one of the fortunate ones, I think, that when I think of going home and being with my family, even my extended family, aunts and uncles, there's a little bit of toxicity, but not a lot, especially in my core family. But that's not the reality for most people. The
Mhm.
large majority of people, when they think about going home and having to be with their family for the holidays, even if it's just an afternoon, it's like they're almost bracing themselves because they know the types of things that are going to be said, and the way that you can feel knocked down and made to feel small or confused, or all of the different things that can come up in those scenarios. And yet you don't feel like you can just not go because they're family. And so, how do you navigate that? How do you not get sucked in? And then the last thing I think where kind of pushed me, like, why do I want to do something around the holidays, is for those of us who have maybe divorced our
Mhm.
person, and that person isn't. Like, some of us get to divorce and have healthy relationships. That's unfortunately not the large majority of us. It does happen, not always. And so when that happens and you're sharing kids, and even 30-second drop offs can cause you anxiety for days ahead of time. Right, and then
Mhm.
the kinda, like, trying to get back to yourself and all of the things after a 30-second drop off. So, these are the types of things that I think that are exacerbated probably from the beginning of November through mid-January. And so oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I see that too. And I see almost an amplifier to those three different scenarios is we get really busy and overwhelmed.
Mhm.
We tend to fall back into some of our old patterns ourselves.
Absolutely.
So it amplifies what's already happening. And then I don't want to call it like a toxic recipe, but it has the potential to become a really toxic recipe. And then I see people go into almost like a bracing mode. I love that
Mhm,
you use that word brace,
mhm.
a bracing mode that then come middle of January, they're in my office falling apart
Exactly.
because they have been just white knuckling it and bracing it for 2 months.
Yes. It's like the white knuckling, and right, and when we don't feel like we can go into something empowered, we were actually talking, Alana, you and I, the audiences know this, but beforehand, we were talking about a scarcity mindset about something else. It almost can be applied to this type of a thing where I don't have ABC, and so that means the next 2.5 months are gonna be horrible.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
really wanted to do something to help shift that for people, right? One of my slogans for the work that I do is "Take your power back." So that's why I was like, "Let's take back the holidays." Why should trauma have the last word? Why should
Okay, I
these.
just want to stop you right
Yeah.
there and please say that again.
Okay.
Because even that statement, like you say that, and I feel chills in my body. Take back the holidays.
Yeah.
And then what did you say after that? Why should you be a victim to,
No, I said, "Why should trauma get the last word?"
oh, why should trauma get the last word? Yeah.
Yeah. Because we can't control others, but we can learn how to become empowered in different situations, and that's why I'm so passionate about the psychoeducation that I do. Because I think as much work as we do, like we could do the grounding, we could do some meditation, and if you aren't aware of the things that are sucking you in like quicksand, you're going to get sucked in and that's going to go right out the window, as opposed to you do like this meditation or whatever you do to get into your zen place before you walk into the family living room or whatever, right? If you know and understand where the quicksand is likely gonna be, you can avoid it. You cannot get sucked in. Doesn't mean this quicksand's not gonna be there. It's still gonna be there, but you know how to recognize it, which is why one of the things I'm talking about during this season is recognizing the pull. Recognizing the pull. How do we recognize when it's starting to happen?
Oh, okay. This is so good. And it makes me think about in your deconstructing gaslight, just like the first course they can take, you have that analogy with the arrows being shot.
Yeah,
And when somebody is trying to gaslight you, they're shooting these arrows. And so many times we feel disempowered of, I just have to stand here and keep getting hit.
yeah,
And you flip that and you empower people to like, no, recognize the arrows, recognize how and when you can step out of the arrows and how to protect yourself.
yeah.
And I love that energy because you really do move into that place of empowerment. And even when you can reframe that in your mind, the energy shift that does in your body and the amount of energy that gives back to you to even be able to just function on a daily basis is game
Yes.
changing.
Yeah, and so when you think about a season like the holiday season, where the amount of times we have to face that kind of scenario is up, right? Like you think the rest of the year, depending on what religion you follow and different things, there might be Easter, maybe once during the summer, and then all of a sudden you got the holidays and you've got Halloween, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, you've got all of these situations, all of these different school breaks. So you don't have as much time to recoup. So if it was a different time of the year and you go to some family event and it takes you like a week to recoup, okay, maybe it's not as bad. But then when you enter the holiday season, you can hardly catch your breath because on top of having to plan for all these events, you got to do Christmas shopping, you got to wrap, you got to make those cookies for the cookie exchange. You got all of these things that are demanding your attention, your time, your energy. And so we don't have as much time to do self-care. It was something that just came to me, inspired me for this workshop is something I'm calling self-repair. We talk so much about repair between couples, right? Between the people and the couples. But it's
Mhm.
like when we go through something like a family gathering or that kid exchange or whatever it might be, we actually have to do self-repair. And so it's not just self-care, right? I feel like it's a level up in permission giving because it's like, I have been wounded because of this. Now we can learn how to minimize that wounding so it doesn't take as much self-repair. And I think that's the whole goal of this workshop that I have created is to really help that with that in the three phases. How can I prepare ahead of time so I can go in as eyes wide open and prepared as possible? what are some strategies that I can employ during so that I can minimize the amount of repair that I don't have to do after. And then we're going to talk about some strategies to do repair. So it's like a little kit, right? Like of how to, again, not just survive the holidays, but take back the holidays so that when you're going into that place, you're not afraid of what's going to happen. You're like, whatever's going to come my way, I know it's only going to go so far because I have tools, because I have information, because I have a plan. I'm
Mm.
not just winging it.
I really love this. And this workshop that you're planning will go more into depth.
Yeah.
And I always hate where people feel like, oh, you're just going to give me this teaser and not give me the
Mm-hmm.
information I really
Mm-hmm.
need. Because what if I can't attend or what if I can't afford it?
Mm-hmm.
The reality is there is so much information to this that we just can't do it in a 30-minute podcast.
And yeah, and to me, the difference between a workshop and a webinar, there's a very distinct difference. A webinar is you just are coming to learn something, and it can be pre-recorded, it can, right? Because it's just a dispensing of information. A workshop is very different, and so a lot of the magic is going to happen not in me dispensing of the information, although I like to think I'll be dispensing some really amazing information. That's going to be 1/3 of what we do, just 1/3. And then there's going to be time where people are going to actually have to work on how do I implement this in my life? And then there's going to be time where I'm going to give feedback, right? So some people will come on and be like, this is how I did this worksheet that you had connected to these lessons. Side note, I'm fresh off of devouring Dr. Ramani's It's Not You book.
Mhm.
And have you read it?
No, but I love her work.
Oh my gosh, I'm a continuing education kind of person. I always want to give the best to my clients, always. What I often do when I find a new tool, I figure out how can I take the brilliance of this thing and apply it to the work that my people are doing. So it
Mm.
might not, it's not equal transfer, but there are a couple of tools that I read in her book that we are going to work on in this workshop because they were so brilliant and it fit so perfectly with just a few minor tweaks to really give some powerful, amazing tools. The thing that I imagined as I was creating this workshop was somebody hearing about something like what I just said about recognizing the ways that we get sucked in. So for the people that are saying, yes, I want information now in this podcast episode, you're exactly right. Like I can teach you one of the traps. So you talked about my signature program where I go
Mhm.
into a lot of things into great detail. And one of the things I teach is the 4 traps that we get sucked into. And what I'm going to do in the workshop is I'm actually going to take the longer lesson. I'm going to put them into a one-liner so we can just know this is the empathy trap. This is the explanation trap. This is the negotiation trap. There are 4 traps. And the last one is the see me trap. So we can see, oh, I see the sign. I might not understand all the inner workings of it that I would if I had that full teaching on it, but I can recognize that sign. I know that's the see me sand trap or quicksand, and I'm going to stay away from that one. So in here, in this spot, in this place, in this podcast, the gift that I think we are giving is, hey, here's an incredible tool. We want to let you know about it so that you can empower yourself and give you enough information to self identify whether or not it's something that pertains to you. That's the benefit, I think, of something like this. Otherwise, you're going off of a 30-second video. Like how often do we make decisions on a TikTok or an Instagram reel that's like 30 seconds long and ooh, I want that. Right? Instead, you're getting like a 15-minute or however long we end up doing this podcast episode where you're getting my vibe because I'm going to be the teacher. You're hearing about who it's for, how it can help. So I do think even though we're not going into depth of what the lessons are going to be in the workshop, I think that what we're doing is extremely valuable for people.
Even as you're talking, that's my thought is for those who can't attend, there is still this power in the message you're giving
Mhm.
of trauma does not have to take over your holidays, that you can sit down and put in some work and some planning and protect yourself. And yes, come to the workshop and get lots of tools and slow that down to actually have support to do your plan and figure it out. But
Mhm.
even if you can't do that, you slowing down and putting effort into this and making time and setting aside for you a couple of hours to process and think and plan and notice what triggers are coming,
Yeah.
Like, even doing that work, you are going to do significantly better during the holidays. So that message
Absolutely.
alone, I feel like is so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes we just need to hear something. We just need to be given permission and we're on a journey. Maybe the next time we can do the workshop, or maybe by this time next year it'll just be a webinar that you can download. Right. Or what, who knows? But I love what you just said. That just hearing, sometimes we hear that, like that thing that you said, like, that just gave me goosebumps. Just that one phrase can sometimes be a game changer.
Mhm.
Talking totally off the topic of the workshop. So, for example, one of the things that I read in Dr. Romney's book that I really loved was she talked about the way we talk to ourselves. Like when you've been in a narcissistic, specifically relationship, because that's her thing. There's a lot of intersectionality between gaslighting and narcissism, obviously. But she was talking about how hard it is to get over the negative self-talk that lingers, even if you're done with the relationship. And so she talked about a tool that was getting a picture of yourself from when you were a kid. And then looking at that picture and being like, can you look at that picture and talk to yourself, your little kid self, the way you were just talking to yourself right now? Like you're so stupid or whatever the messages might be that are lingering. And I'm telling you, I was on the airplane when I was reading this and I like legit almost started to cry because I've been transparent about this in my podcast. I, as an almost 50-year-old, have never gotten to the place where I am okay with my body physically. Like I'm very critical, very self-critical of different things about my body. And I immediately thought of that. It wasn't the context at all of what she meant it really, but it didn't matter because the tool, and this is the point, the tool or the saying or just that concept of, oh my gosh, would I look at, y'all can't see it, but I'm going to show Lana. I don't know. See it.
Oh, yes.
That's
She's showing
me.
a little girl picture.
Oh, I'm so cute. I'll have to
It's
send it to you.
adorable.
I was born in 75, so I've got the like Farrah Fawcett flyaway. It's brilliant. I'm gonna like maybe when I release it, I'll put a little picture of it. Yeah. But I could never look at her and be like, you're gross. Do you know what I mean?
It's interesting because you even saying that, like the amount of sadness that just welled in me
Yeah.
from hearing you say that about her, that was really interesting. I experienced that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that's what happened to me in the airplane is, oh my God, like I would never do that to little Sarah. So why do I do it to 50-year-old? Almost, well, I say almost, I got 6 more months. I'm trying to prepare myself, I think, to 49-year-old Sarah. I go, why is it okay to do it to me now? So the point of me sharing that is saying whatever your takeaways can be from today, whether you come and join me in the workshop or not. I know, Alana, you and I have the same heart. We want to help people. And so hopefully there will be things peppered throughout this where they can be moments of, oh my gosh, I can take back the holidays. I don't have to let trauma have the last word.
I am all about that message of empowerment because when you go through trauma, so much of that is so disempowering. That's what makes trauma traumatic
Yeah.
is something happened where you did not have the power. That
Yep.
power was felt like it was taken from you. So to reclaim that is such a beautiful part of that healing journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So give
Yeah.
us the details on the workshop for those who do want to attend, when it will be, how much it will cost, how they register. And
Ab-
obviously we'll put it all in our show notes, but
yeah.
hearing it first
Sure.
helps
Yeah.
integrate it.
Absolutely. So it's going to be on a Saturday. And I did that hoping that it would be available for the most amount of people. So Saturday, November 16th. And the way that I'm going to do it is we're going to do it live, completely live at 11 a.m. Central. I always do my time zone first because then that helps me. Mountain time always messes me up, but I'm pretty sure that means 10 a.m. Mountain time, 9 a.m. West Coast. And then
Mhm,
that would be noon East Coast. So hopefully
mhm.
everybody can find their time zone in that. What I'm also going to do is do what we call a replay that evening. Now, I haven't decided the full time yet, but probably fairly similar, like not too late for the West Coast, not too early for the East Coast. Where what we do is I actually record in the morning. And then when it comes to the time when I would give feedback, I actually skip it in the video and we do live feedback. What I don't do live is the teaching. So it just helps me bring consistency. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make it available for the attendees only for the entire holiday season. So you'll have it for 2 months where you can go
Mhm.
back and you can watch it because you're going to need to. You're going to need to be reminded. You're going to need to feel the energy. I think that's one of the things that I also love about the videos is rather than reading a book and reading the same sentence over, I feel like it can sometimes lose its power. But when you go back and you hear the passion of somebody sharing, it sticks with you. And I think people being able to access that over and over again throughout the holidays, I think will be really helpful. So that is, I think, something else that's important to know. So those are some of the housekeeping things. It's $30. It's going to be 2 hours long is what I'm planning to accommodate the teaching and the workshop time and the feedback time. And then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So there are 3 main points I'm going to cover. I talked about them a little bit throughout the thing already, but point number 1, I'm calling recognize the pull. This is where we're going to go into understanding and being able to recognize the effects that happen in us when
Mhm.
somebody is doing something that is gaslighty. Now, we could put any toxic behavior, but my specialty is gaslighting. So I've got a number of different things in there. I already talked about it. The traps, one-liners. We're going to go into a Dr. Romney tool called Dimmer, which is absolutely brilliant. I don't know if you've heard of that one in her social media or something. I'm also going to go through something that is in my Deconstructing Gaslighting Awareness video course, which is the progression of effects scale. So all of
Mhm.
these things are things that help us recognize when we are being gaslit, because sometimes we don't recognize it till we're talking about it later, and we need to speed that up,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
the goal of the education that I do isn't to make us completely like, a gaslighting is nobody's ever gonna be able to do or say anything. No, it's us being able to recognize when gaslighting is happening, when we're starting to lose our power, when we're starting to doubt ourselves, when we're starting to get confused. The sooner we can recognize when those effects are happening, the sooner we can employ the second thing, which is our plan for in the moment. Category number 1, recognize the pull. Category number 2 that we're gonna go into, or topic number 2, is plan for in the moment. I'm going to go into some mindset things. So we talked about getting Zen. That's not what I called it in the workshop, but it's a few mindset things that we're then going to take and turn into some mantras. So we're going to personalize them and make them into powerful mantras that you can prepare yourself with and use throughout whatever the thing is, whether it's a kid exchange, family gathering, whatever. I'm also going to share a little bit of what I call my conversation generator that comes from my webinar that's on my website, but not in its entirety. It's going to be a little bit different. And then the third thing, like I talked about, is what I'm calling self-repair. So these are going to be a little bit more somatic, some of them. Some of them are going to be some mindset things, but all of them are going to be geared towards thinking about it as a ritual. What are these things that I'm going to do? They're going to help bring me back to me and help repair the places that might have been dinged, whether you call that slimed, whether you call that chipped away. It depends on what the impact was. But there are
Mhm.
definitely, even me, who's been specializing in this in 10 years, if I go into a situation where there's a ton of gaslighting, there are things that I do to bring me back to a place where I'm not doubting myself, where I'm not confused, where I feel calm and I feel peace, right? So these are tips and tools that we can really learn to hone and use really efficiently.
That phrase, bring me back to me, I know resonates with so many of my partners who have been betrayed because there is such a loss of sense of self.
Yes.
And so, what a beautiful way. And I'll just say, like, my organized brain,
Yeah.
the way you just described that is like candy for my brain because what I heard is before, during, and after. And
Exactly.
when it's so clear and clean like that, when you're in a traumatic situation or you're being activated or your fight, flight, or freeze is happening, something really simple for my brain to hold on to before, during, after. Okay, I'm in the middle of it. Here's what I
Yep.
do.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm done. Here's what I do.
Yep.
That to me, that simplicity of it, that cleanness of it makes it so much more manageable and easier to integrate it.
Yes. Thank you for saying that because that's my goal. I'm past just dispensing information.
Yeah.
I want to dispense information in a way that helps people integrate it into their life so they can actually use it. Otherwise, don't bother attending. Right? Kind of thing. Like, I want you to be able to use it immediately in your life. Immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. This holiday season, a change.
I want all of my clients to experience this.
Mm,
Sarah, when you did your deconstructing gaslighting for professionals,
Mhm.
I don't know if I was like the first, but I was like one of the first where I was like, me,
Yeah.
because I want this for every single one of my clients. And I will just say for every one of you listening, I want this for you.
Mhm.
Not because I want you to go give your money to Sarah, but do because it's the best $30 you'll ever spend.
Mhm.
But I want this for you because I want you to be able to take your power back. I
Yes.
want you to be able to get through the holidays and not feel like you've been hit by a Mack truck. I
Yes.
want you to have that empowerment. I want that for every single person who's been betrayed.
It's the difference between, I feel like, looking at a situation and being like, "I don't think I can do this," versus looking at a situation and say, "This might be not fun, but I can do it."
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a game changer.
We'll put all of the information on how to register in the show notes. For those of you who are hanging out with us today,
Mhm.
as always, thank you for hanging out with us. Sarah, I love and respect the work you do. I have no shame in saying, go look up Sarah's website, go take her courses, do this workshop, and you will be better for it. I notice this type of work really does benefit every relationship in your life.
Mhm.
And you learning these skills, if you have children, when you integrate this for yourself, you teach your kids how to protect themselves and how to be
100%.
empowered in the world. So this work is so much bigger than just the holidays. It's so much bigger than just you. It is
Yeah.
just such important work. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Alana. That really means the world. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you all for hanging out with us. I was going to say we'll see you all next week, but since this is a bonus episode, we'll see y'all in a couple days. All right. Thanks, Sarah. See you later.